there was a very unique corporate shareholders meeting that took place in 1987. Some of you may remember it.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar Paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. Thank you very much.
This was Michael Douglas playing the flamboyant financial tycoon Gordon Gekko. I love that name. I just like saying it. Gordon Gekko. In Oliver Stone's film, Wall Street. This is probably the most memorable scene in the film, with the single most impactful line. Anyone who's seen this film, those who haven't, know it. I heard someone say it even as I was starting it. That statement, greed is good. He says it clarifies, cuts through, and carries the very essence of the evolutionary spirit. Is that true? Okay. When I was at Miami University, we have something going on back here. Okay, thank you. Ask and receive. You can quote me. I remember back when I was at Miami University, in Economics 101, and we were taught about the reasonable economic man. The reasonable economic man was a behavioral concept used to predict what people would and would not do in a free marketplace. It was used to determine what you and I would do. And the professor said the reasonable economic man, and some of the ladies said, he said, or woman, will always do what is in their own self-interest. That was in the business school. Over in the philosophy department, they taught us of enlightened self-interest. It was a different model of behavior. In Unity, we teach that there is always something good to be found. Always. So what good is there to be found in greed? Well, if you allow yourself to delve into it, as we can do without too much risk, through movies and books, you might find that it does clarify a certain worldview of life. A view in which there is you and everyone else. A view in which relationships, if they matter at all, matter for utilitarian purposes. What kind of deal can you give me now? What can you do for me today? When I was 17, some friends and I took a road trip to New York City, the Big Apple. And as soon as we could, we went right to the top of the Empire State Building. And I looked out on this vast, pulsing, majestic city. And I said, wow. Wow. And that wow was a deep appreciation for how this incredible metropolis worked, how interconnected everything was, how interdependent everyone was. And I was filled with the deepest gratitude for all the myriad talents and abilities, cultural diversities, individual proclivities that allowed this city to hum energetically beneath me, below me. And in such order, there is such order that you see from that altitude. You see how all the streets work together. You see people moving orderly in cars and buses, on foot. You see and you feel it working. Maybe that's what God sees from that divine altitude. She sees it work, even when we're not. And up on that chilly, wind-swept platform, my heart was warmed. It was warm. His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, the purpose of life is to increase the warm heart. Gratitude is the faculty of the heart that clarifies our lives. Gratitude clarifies and cuts through to the essence of the evolutionary impulse in us. Because when we live in gratitude, and I'm differentiating from having gratitude for, nothing wrong with having gratitude for. Gratitude for my house, for my family, for my friends. There is a higher order of gratitude than even that. It's living in gratitude. And when we're living in gratitude, we live in appreciation for the relationships that we have, the relationships with our family, the relationships with our friends, the relationships with all the cultures and peoples of the world. Appreciation for our relationship with the earth itself. A couple weeks ago, on National Public Radio Morning Edition, Los Angeles chef Roy Choi, who is an up-and-coming chef on the national scene, was interviewed. And he's of Korean ancestry. And he was sharing his essential advice on how to wash rice. And he said, when you wash rice, you don't wash it to clean it. You wash to cleanse. He said in the West, our Western mentality gets us into the habit of washing vegetables because they're dirty. But with rice, you wash it to cleanse. He says, you get your hands into the rice, and you knead it gently, and you swirl the waters, and you feel it moving through your hands. And you shut off the phone, and you forget the world. And you allow your energy to be transferred into the rice, and the rice's energy to be transferred into you. He says, and then you drain the pan, and you fill it again, and you wash it again, and again, and again. At least 3 times minimum, maybe 5, or he says if you're feeling kinky, even more. He says, feel each grain, each grain. And then he goes on to say, if you speak to any Asian person, from Southeast Asia up through northern China, rice is everything. Everything. It's what you live on. It is who you are. It is that essential in their diet, their lives, and their psyche. And he said the washing of rice takes on a mystical experience. He said when you first pour water into rice, the water is cloudy. But then as you wash and rinse and wash and rinse, the water becomes clear. And it is as if you are watching your soul being cleansed before you. For that moment, for that single moment each day, you have this mystical experience of cleansing the rice in your spirit. We are in relationship at all times with everything, without exception.